George Groves versus Jamie Cox, the World Boxing Super Series, Super Middleweight quarter-final, taking place this weekend. Cox started his career at welterweight or light middleweight, I believe. I think he might have been a welterweight in the amateurs. Earlier on in his career, he was calling out Kell Brook, apparently. I mean, I don't remember this, but this is what I'm told. This is what I'm reading online. Now he's fighting George Groves, who is a big super middleweight. People are talking about the size difference here, saying that this is going to be the deciding factor in the fight, or the main deciding factor in the fight is the size difference. And basically Cox has no chance because he's too small. I'm going to reserve judgment because I haven't seen enough of Cox, and the little I've seen of him has been against limited opposition. So I really don't know what he can do, what he's capable of, how well he takes a shot, if he can take George Groves' power, what his stamina is like. I just don't know. So I'm not going to make a prediction based on an unknown quantity in Jamie Cox. I hope I didn't say George Cox. Yeah, Jamie Cox. I'm not going to make a prediction based on an unknown quantity in him. What I do know is that George Groves is jaded. He's not that difficult to find in the ring these days. His foot speed doesn't seem to be as quick as it used to be. Fighters are able to walk him down and pin him on the ropes with relative ease these days. From what I've seen of Jamie Cox, he's very aggressive. He's got good hand speed. He's a very correct puncher. I don't know how big a puncher he is, particularly at super middleweight, but he's a very correct puncher. When he lands, he tends to land clean and flush. George Groves has never had the greatest chin. You know, you go back to when he was rocked by Kenny Anderson, and he's been rocked in several fights, knocked out by Carl Froch, dropped by Badu Jack, etc. So he's never had the greatest chin. Would it shock me if Jamie Cox was able to drop George Groves, hurt George Groves, maybe even beat George Groves? No, it wouldn't shock me. Because I don't think Groves is the man that he used to be. I think he's vulnerable. He's done very well in his career. It's been a great journey. But as I say, if Cox, you know, Chris Eubank Sr., after the fight that his son had on the weekend against Yildirim, he said that the George Groves-Jamie Cox fight is not a foregone conclusion because Jamie Cox is a hungry fighter. And that's what I see in Jamie Cox. I see somebody who's very hungry. George Groves has made it to the mountaintop. George Groves is a millionaire. He's been involved in massive events, massive fights. He's fought in the United States, he's fought in the UK, etc. on very big shows. Jamie Cox is, what, the same age as Groves or a bit older? And he's not a millionaire. He hasn't been involved in massive fights. He's never fought for a world title. So the level of hunger that he has right now going into this fight, the level of focus and dedication is going to be very, very high. And that's what Chris Eubank Sr. sees, and that's why he thinks Jamie Cox is dangerous. One of the reasons, apart from his style and potentially his punching power, etc. When I just look at them stylistically, I think that Cox is a very dangerous opponent for Groves. And I've heard a lot of things about Cox in sparring, you know, knocking out certain top-level super middleweights. And I'm talking about world-level super middleweights. This is what I've heard. When I look at his style, I think, yeah, he can give Groves problems. But then it does come down to the size. Because in boxing, no matter how much ability you have, there comes a point where you could get put in a ring with a guy who's just simply too big, who might not be as skilled as you, but his overall size and strength and power is just too much for you to cope with, regardless of how skillful you are. There is a line that exists for all fighters where anything above a certain size of fighter, they just can't cope with. So, is George Groves above that line with Jamie Cox? That's what I'm wondering to myself. I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the fight. As I say, I can't make a prediction based upon a fighter who I know virtually nothing about in Jamie Cox. I don't know what he can do and what he can't do, how he's going to react in certain situations. I just don't know. So, I'll be watching as a fan. And if any of you have got any concrete view on how you think the fight is going to go, how it's going to play out, and who's going to win, and drop it in the comment section below. I'll be very interested to read your comments, because as I say, I can't really get a gauge on Jamie Cox. Maybe some of you can. So let me know how you feel in the comment section, people. Who do you think is going to win? How's it going to go? It's happening. I'm out.